So I assume he's going to be there. But if he's not, yeah, maybe you can read a little bit into something. But, Pittsburgh, they've interviewed so many different people.
'22 draft. Philadelphia Eagles on the clock twice. We're here to talk about it for the next 2 hours. And Howie Roseman is up today to talk about it as well. We'll give you our thoughts over the next two. And then, yes, tomorrow we'll have many thoughts on what Howie Roseman has to say. Jody McDonald, John McMullen, your Mac and Macbirds 365 guys. MacMan, you've been covering the league for a long time, Eagles specifically the last several years here in town. Is Howie Roseman going to tip his hand today? Is he going to come out and pull a Ben McAdoo moment, say something he isn't supposed to say, and then go, oh, by the way, can we erase the tape that you guys have about what the Birds are going to do at 15 or 18?
Howie's way too savvy for that. He's been doing this for way too long. He actually, I always joke about Howie likes to joke, and I think he wanted to be a stand-up comedian at some point in his life when he was younger, but he bombs. The jokes never land, and he never gets a reaction. But he keeps trying. So, got you, Howie, with the jokes. But he has joked in the past that he's called certain positions in certain years. He's used the term historical, and it hasn't. It's kind of bit him in the butt just from that perspective. Just from, being very generalized. So he even tries to cut down that now. I know he mentioned back at I think it was the combine. People asked him about the edge rushers and how good the class was at the top, and he kind of mentioned that about getting bitten in the past. But yeah, I mean, hopefully, it's how he's going to speak today. Hope Andy Weidl as well. I assume will be there. Typically, it's all three. We'll see. Maybe the Steelers' interest in Andy Weidl turns the Eagles in a different direction. But it should be more than Howie as well. But nobody's going to tip their hand. So you try to get more big picture answers than anything else.
All right, so we'll start there. Do you read into it that if Andy Weidl isn't at today's press availability, that he is all but a lock to get the Steeler general manager? He's in the mix to get the. You can't ask him a question about it. You ask Howie, but you know what his answer is going to be. Yeah, I can't comment on that.
No, I think he'll be there. I just throw that.
If he's not, my question is, if he's not, what are you reading into it?
Small possibility that they don't want to deal with but I mean, he's savvy enough too to just deflect it. And, Jonathan Gannon went through this at the end of the regular season when it was pretty clear he's going to start getting some interest as a potential head coach. And those guys are, that's why the PR staff is there. Hey, this is coming. Be ready for this. Be ready for that. So I assume he's going to be there. But if he's not, yeah, maybe you can read a little bit into something. But, Pittsburgh, they've interviewed so many different people. I think the last number I saw ago was up to 12. I know there's a reporter out there, Jerry Dulac, who said he's the leader in the clubhouse. He's pretty plugged in. So I think that kind of sped things up, but I think it was more speculation. He wasn't reporting it. He did it during a chat. And, Andy's a Pittsburgh guy, and his first job was in Pittsburgh. So I think it was more speculation than anything else. But see, I think, I don't know from your perspective, Jody, and I'll spin it back on you and ask what you want to hear. What I want to hear from the group is, how they've handled this whole process with losing Brandon, with losing Ian Cunningham, and then you have the speculation surrounding Andy Weidl. But, fans are obviously going to want to know, do the Eagles like, Jordan Davis? Do they like Drake Ludden or care what, and they're not going to do that. I mean, they're not going to do that. I don't know how many years you got to go through this process. They're not going to say, "Hey, we're going to draft this guy if he's there." I mean, that's not how this works. But people still want it. I don't
It
know.
would be that's how we would like it to work, but
Yeah.
it's not the way in actuality that it works. One last Andy Weidl question. Um, Grabbing this position at this time. This happened for another former Eagles executive as well. When Joe Douglas went to the Jets, they let the general manager stick around. And this was Pittsburgh, at least it was understandable because the GM said, listen, I want to retire. Tolbert had done a good job for him and said, listen, I'm stepping away. I won't leave the organization in a lurch. I'm not going to quit. Just as free agency is going to start, I'll stay all the way through the draft, but know full well come May 1st, I plan to be out the door. So you're going to need to replace me accordingly. That was not the case with the Jets a couple of years ago. The Jets had their general manager in place, let him stick around, make all the free agent moves, let him stick around and run the draft. And then shortly after the draft came down, they said, all right, never mind, you're fired. And Joe Douglas jumped in and took the job. Is that a better position to be in or a lesser position to be in? Because certainly the results of the next year aren't on you. They're on the previous general manager. He made all the moves. He committed all the money. He okayed all the draft picks. So is it the free year that you would like? Or do you want to get, hey, if I'm going to jump in and take this job, let me get to it right away, not have to watch somebody else's players play for a year. That's what Andy's Weidl is looking at it. Better position to be in or a lesser position to be in because it's not the way it's usually done?
I would think better. I would think it's better to get your feet on the ground and evaluate what you have and have some time and before Pittsburgh's a pretty football market as well. You have a bit of a honeymoon period that's going to end pretty quickly, especially in an organization. I mean, you mentioned the Jets. The Jets are fans are football rabid as well, but they're used to not having success. Pittsburgh's not used to not success. So you better get that thing. And you don't have a quarterback. Remember, your Hall of Fame quarterback is leaving, and you're planning, and I put that in quotations, on Mitchell Trubisky replacing Ben Roethlisberger. So I don't think it's going to be good in the short term. But from a common sense perspective, I think it would be a better situation where you had a chance to evaluate what you have. You have is all the new GMs right now who came in, in January, and the draft is in April, and they basically got to get to it. Because generally only when you change GMs, you're not only changing the GMs, you're also changing at least a portion of the staff as well. They want to bring in their own guys. And so you have all these new people trying to get on the same page, trying to evaluate what they have in the building, what they need, all that kind of stuff. And there's just not enough time in the day. And you saw it in a scaled back way because the coaching staff isn't as involved until late in the process when it comes to the draft. But you had it here in Philadelphia last year with the changeover in the coaching staff, and you're drafting players for one guy and his group of coaches, and then all of a sudden you got to change up. So all that stuff is difficult. But I would think having a chance to get your feet underneath you is always better.
I would say one of the pluses of the Steeler job is you and I have discussed on many occasions the fact that patience can be a good thing. That if an organization is willing to stick with something and isn't always looking for the greener side of the grass and ready to make changes and flip things, that if you stay the course, sometimes that can be very productive. And there's no better example of that than the Pittsburgh Steelers in the NFL. They just don't make big changes. The coaching position is the one that stands out more than any. 3 coaches over the last 50 years. But the front office as well. They haven't been a team that drastically changes up there either. So if he gets a gig, he's stepping into a pretty good gig. All right, so Howie's going to meet with the media during the 11 o'clock hour today. You jumping on the Zoom?
No, it's live. It's live. So gotta head down. As soon as I get up here, I'll pretty much head down to the NovaCare complex.
Got you. You'll beat it on over there. Don't know if you're going to ask it, but I hope someone asks it today. There was a report out yesterday that the New Orleans Saints are going to meet with Jarvis Landry. As far as I know, Jarvis Landry has not met with any team since being released by the Cleveland Browns. There was one media report out there that said Jarvis thinks himself a top wide receiver in the league and should be paid accordingly, not Tyreek Hill type money, but you want to nudge up the Tyreek as quickly or as close as you can, and he's throwing out a $20 million per year offer. I like Jarvis Landry. I'd like to see Jarvis Landry in a Philadelphia Eagle uniform. He's not a $20 million a year player. This is one where I won't question the Eagles' commitment to get into the deep end of the pool. If it's $20 million, shake his hand, wish him luck. I don't know that I'd be making him that kind of offer, but there have been no reports whatsoever that the Eagles have even talked to him or investigated what he's looking for this upcoming year. The Saints he's going into New Orleans to meet with them. Is it the food? If you want to go down there for better eats, we got some damn fine restaurants right here in Philadelphia. Maybe not New Orleans restaurants, but damn good restaurants just the same. You can't tell me Jameis Winston is that much a bigger draw than Jalen Hurts. You can't tell me the first-year coach Dennis Allen is someone you have to go play for rather than Nick Sirianni. I'm probably putting the cart before the horse here. The Eagles haven't lost the player, and he hasn't signed with the Saints yet. But why wouldn't the Eagles be in on Jarvis Landry if the New Orleans Saints are?
Well, why wouldn't they be? We talked about patience being a good thing, a virtue at times. It could also be a bad thing at times if you're overly patient. I've called it overly disciplined. Look, they need a receiver. They need a receiver. They need a veteran receiver. From the Eagles standpoint, they kind of shifted their sentiment from we need a veteran receiver, what I just said, to, oh, look what these veteran receivers are getting paid. We might as well just go the young route and get another young receiver, have them cost effective for 4 years or 3 years, 4 years, whatever. I think that's where they're at now. If the market isn't there, now you said, why would Jarvis Landry? I mean, where did he go to school? Where did same thing with the Honey Badger? Jarvis is from Louisiana. What have the Eagles been able to do in free agency? Well, they signed Hassan Reddick. Where's Hassan Reddick from? He's from Camden. They signed Kaiser White. Where's Kaiser White from? He's from Macungie in Lehigh County. Sometimes it's as simple as that. Then you don't even have to get to, well, Jameis Winston isn't better than Jalen Hurts, or Jameis Winston is better than Jalen Hurts. But I would say from a wide receiver standpoint, even if you throw all that stuff out, Jody, Jameis Winston once threw for 5,000 yards in this league. Now, he also threw for 5,000 interceptions. I mean, but if you're throwing for 5,000 yards and he's healthy, again, as a passer, purely as a passer, and purely as a standpoint, we always talk about wide receiver being the most selfish position in sports. Yeah, I mean, the Saints even have the advantage there. But I would think in the case of Landry and those LSU guys, man, they run deep, and
then
they never leave.
How do the Saints not win the Super Bowl every year with every LSU guy?
Well, you can't
looking to migrate home to the Bayou.
You can't just declare I would go there, but if you have an opportunity to go there, I'm just throwing it out there. You saw the same thing happen in Philadelphia. A couple guys who from the area wanted to come home. Same thing happens in other parts of the country. But if you have
so what you're telling me is we now all need to start rooting more heartily for Temple going forward, because the only way the Eagles can upgrade their roster is getting free agents who played in Philadelphia, originally from Philadelphia, just drove through Philadelphia at one time during their life count for a recruiting inducement tool to get them to sign free agent contracts.
I'm saying it helped them this year in the situation they are, which I've called a self-fulfilling prophecy. They're the ones saying, It's a transition year last year. It's a building year. They're the ones saying we're not ready. I'm not the one who use it all the time, but they're the ones saying it. The fan base is the one saying it. I'm not the one saying it. And that's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And that's where they are right now. Now, Jarvis strikes me as the guy who, quite honestly, give him one more dollar, he's going to go there. So the Eagles could pay the penalty, so to speak, and pay the tax, but they don't seem interested in the player, probably because of the price tag or the price tag. Now, you can debate on whether these players, I got in a Twitter thing about Deebo Samuel last night because it looks like Deebo Samuel wants out of San Francisco. And people don't understand. They're saying, money. Yeah, duh. I know he wants money. The assumption is San Francisco will give him the money, and he still wants out of San Francisco, which makes sense to me because I've been telling you, Cody, guess what? If you get Deebo Samuel, you're not getting Kyle Shanahan. So you better have a coach willing to utilize him the way the San Francisco 49ers have utilized him. It's always amazing. And we're going to have JAKIB, a former NFL player, after the break. It's always amazing to me, the player's mentality that at times, and that Deebo doesn't seem to recognize that all coaches aren't created equal, all teams. And, if he's just going to line up and play receiver, he's not Deebo Samuel anymore.
Here's where I think Deebo's at. And I read the same things that you read, but I haven't talked to Deebo Samuel, and Deebo Samuel hasn't been quoted. So this is just a guesstimation on your part, my part. He wants to go to a superstar quarterback market. Green Bay Packers. He'd probably like to go play with Aaron Rodgers. Yes, Jalen Hurts, unproven still. Hasn't had a bust-out year. But he's looking at either a rookie quarterback second year, but his first time ever starting, and or an injured Jimmy Garoppolo throwing the football again next year. No, yeah, he's first. He wants to get paid like the other superstar wide receivers, get into the neighborhood of the Tyreek Hills and the Devontae Adams. But on top of that, I think he wants to dictate, I want to go somewhere where I've got a top 5 quarterback throwing me the football. That's not San Francisco. But unfortunately, it's not Philadelphia either. So I'm not holding my breath for Deebo Samuel. He's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. Mac and Mac, guys. As John just teased you, G. Cobb, Gary Cobb, former NFL linebacker, contributor for Fox 29 here in town. We got a G spot coming up next here on Birds 365.